Good morning. Welcome back to continuing this edition of Joe on the Job Site with my guest, Joe Brown. He and I have went out and walked the project. We participated in our morning stretch and flex with the team. We also did a huddle on the project. We take our superintendents and foremans and we take 15 minutes in the morning with them and talk to them about the job, find out if they have any constraints or something popped up that they need help with that we can address quickly and help them move across the project. And we also like to see that they've talked to the other subs and coordinated a little bit with one another. So their workflow is easier and more efficient for the project. And these meetings are 15, 20 minutes every morning. And, they actually help the schedule because it solves the issues, the points, and the problems, or you get ahead of them before they become an issue that can affect the schedule. So, Joe, welcome. Thanks for coming and walking the project. And I always like to do peer reviews. So we're on the 5th floor getting ready to pour our next deck. And we've got all of our equipment out there. Teams are running. What do you see out there that you could provide for me or have a question or anything I've done that needs attention? It's always great to have a second pair of eyes because when you're on the job every day, sometimes you get a little focused and you miss a few things.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
Well, I think the job looked great. It was clean, it was organized, it's obviously well managed.
Well, one thing about a clean job site,
It's a safe
it's
job.
safe a job
That's
site.
true.
And it also helps with production.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The morning huddle, I think, is a great process. It helps keep the subcontractors kind of focused on the task at hand and what's coming up next, what's important, and also if they have any obstacles in the way, it allows for open conversation with other subs to figure out the best route to fix.
Yeah. One of the things we like about the morning huddles and the stretch and flexes, when we're pouring concrete, we can tell them and remind them in our discussion that, hey, we're going to make the next pour on Friday. These are the areas to stay clear. Yes, we have them barricaded, protected, and we put up all the safety features, but it keeps reminding them so that they can do it. And then the foremans, hey, we're going to pour on Friday, and they'll look at you and say, well, we got a problem locating these poke throughs in the slab. It shows them here on the first, second, or on the second and third, fourth floor, but now they moved them, and I don't see where I've got that in my information. And you get a chance, maybe there was an RFI or something to dig up to make sure we're doing it in the right spot.
Okay.
And it's a good tool. It's time involved, but you get more out of it than you can believe with that 15 to 20, 30-minute huddle in the morning.
I totally agree. Totally agree. It's something I've always said. It's us against the building.
Right.
It's the contractors all working together in harmony.
Yep.
To build that building. So.
Yep.
Valuable time.
Well, we walked through the second, third, and fourth floor. What'd you think of the systems we have in place? We've got our exterior on this is curtain wall. So we put our barricades on the inside. And one of the reasons we did that was because we wanted to be able to have access in the floor and in the ceiling. We embedded those channels to where you can walk up and drop in a safety and tie off on overhead or tie off in the floor.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and we'll fill the ones in the floor later on, but we like the ones in the ceiling because then when the guys are doing overhead work, they got another safety point to use.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's important. We got to always try to look out for the safety of the workers, and we got to make it easy. If it's difficult for them, that's when guys like to try to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
So I think if we make it easy and we make it adaptable, it's better for everybody.
Yeah, I have one kid, young superintendent. His job is to go around and look for our favorite thing, the green tags. Scaffold tags, equipment tags, everything. It's his job to see that the inspections are done, the reports are in. And one of the things that's changed from the past that I really like is we used to use ladders upside the building. Remember, we built those big wide gang ladders and you'd crawl up and pull your tools up and everything. Now we use exterior scaffold towers and we can add to them as the building goes up. And you have to have at least 2 to 3 beams of egress off a deck now. So it provides that. And then We have our landing zone out there. We have the approach for the equipment to stock and then get dropped on the extended landing zone, the support deck, and then we can move it in. That's moving pretty well.
One thing I was really impressed with too is the overhead protection. You know, the way you've got the bottom of the first floor all kind of fenced in to where you funnel everybody through one location that's overhead protected for
Right.
the workers. You know, there's not stuff falling off the edge of the building that could potentially cause issues with
Yeah.
workers walking in and out of the job. So I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
And sometimes if I don't know if you've seen it, sometimes we have double. We have one that's 10 to 20 feet back on the outside and one that's 10 to 20 feet back on the inside.
Yeah.
Just so they know we're overhead. Because when that concrete pump's moving along, stuff happens, things fall, people drop stuff. The idea is the best defense is not to be there.
Right. Absolutely.
What'd you think of our boneyard? We had it sitting out there. We've tried to make it to where each individual subcontractor had a section and we had drive lanes through it so they could pick the material up and move it around. We put extra gates up off of the perimeter so we didn't drive through the site so much with the deliveries.
Yeah, the flexibility is nice.
Yeah.
You know, the way you have the gates that you can move through the job site in different areas at different times is nice. Keeping the boneyard organized with each individual subcontractor having areas. I love the fact that you're policing those, making them police their own areas and, you know, clean up their messes on a daily basis. And
Did you happen to count how many trash cans are there?
quite a few trash cans.
Yeah,
One thing that was impressive is I didn't see a single one of them that was overflowing. So that means that they're out there and emptying the trash daily.
Yep. We have one guy. We used to have the subs assigned to clean up, and that's what we've been doing the past week. But I'm seeing as the subs start to add more people, one guy has 5, one guy has 20, one guy has 32. As they start to add more people, it's been falling down a little bit and taking a little more effort. So I'm going to change it here in the next few weeks, and I'm going to have one of our laborers. That's what he does. Because the dumpsters in the dumpster area, you know, we have 5 one time, we have 6, we have 4, and they seem to fill them up. And 1 minute, you know, you look at them and that one's set empty for 2. Well, the beauty of it is we don't pay by the day, we pay by the pull.
Right.
So I can put as many out there as I need. I just have to remember to keep them spaced apart where they'll get to them, fill them up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice on a site like what you have out there where you got room. I'm working on a site where I don't have room. I'm in downtown environment and it is tight. So
Yep.
you know, logistics become a big part of the game. And
Yeah. Flying trash boxes and
trash boxes.
all that tire crane works. We've got 2 on this site. They're far enough apart. We don't have to worry about them striking one another. The load capacity is enough to fly the forms and the systems without any troubles. One thing that we've had a bunch of, and it probably took me a month to get it under control, was the equipment inspections, the tire crane inspections, all of that done prior to startup.
Right.
And I wound up taking one of the young superintendents, brought him in, and that's his first thing in the morning, every morning.
Good.
See that that's done.
Nice.
And we started putting out fire extinguishers and marking egresses for people to get out of the building, because when you get up there and look around, you know. So we actually took the big placards and put them on the sides of the stair tower so you can see them anywhere in the
That's
building.
perfect. I like the fact that you have the stair number
Right.
as well as the floor number, and you have an egress map on there. That is first class.
Yeah.
So,
And we update it every time we move it.
yeah, it's great.
It's a lot of detail work, but it does help a lot. And believe it or not, we fly the portalets on the pours. And when we have the landing stations on the side of the building, once in a while we'll have portalets there, depending on how we're moving up the building. But when they have that egress marked, they're more apt to run downstairs to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What'd you think of the progress of the site? We've got our schedule going here, and right now we've looked at our buyout. We've got our little marker here for the date.
Yep.
And we've seen, and one of the things we like to do is compare this to where we're at and when we're coming. On the other wall, we have the rest of the schedule.
Mhm.
And we're tracking on time, but But did you see anything out there that might not be hitting where it's supposed to, or something I might want to look at?
I think everything looks really good. Looks like you're right where you need to be. Have you had anybody go out and actually physically go look at the windows that are in storage to make sure that everything, measure a few of them to make sure that the openings are correct and that, the windows are manufactured correctly?
We haven't done that. We're still on our skin coordination.
Okay.
When we started the project, we did the anchor coordination.
Right.
And because we're the exterior skin bolts, we have plates at each connection that are welded with adjustables and that connect to the curtain wall.
Okay.
And we've gotten that far,
Yep.
but we haven't finished that part, and it's something we're working on. And I talked to the subcontractor for that, and when we top out on the 8th floor, he wants to come and laser scan the building, and then he's going to cut it. And we have him set. We're doing like side A. So if you look at our site plan, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H lettered on the building and to set the flow. So once that's in, I am a little concerned that he needs 4 weeks to produce the aluminum,
Right.
and it's 6 to 12 weeks to get the glass, because the glass is coming out of Wisconsin.
Mm.
And I've already talked to the office. I said, look, we need some money, buy some plywood, because
Get this thing dried in.
get it dried in. And one thing that happens also is you're going to break a piece of glass.
Absolutely.
And we've talked to the teams in Wisconsin, and he said, if you break one, we'll prioritize it and ship it to you. Might cost a fortune, but we just can't send them UPS.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So-
big UPS truck.
It's coming.
Yeah, good. Good. So,
So-
he's not doing modular systems. He's doing built-in-place type systems.
It's a built-in place. The mullions
Gotcha.
the verticals are in 3 pieces all the way to the floor. So we have to have our recess and our slab on grade poured. And they're a little challenged on the time getting done underneath.
Mhm.
Worst case scenario, I'll pour a ribbon around. I've already asked the engineer if I can pour a ribbon around in case we're still on the inside, so
Right.
it doesn't affect his work.
Yep.
Here we are in October, and I guarantee you, when that summer sun starts hitting it, they're going to want to have some air moving through that building and the timing on it. So
Yeah.
we're fortunately in the cool months to do a lot of the heavy work.
Right. Cooler, drier months.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
So you've walked this project with me and looked at it. You've built multiple projects in your career, and you're still going.
Still going.
Yeah. What are some key things? You walk to a project, you sit down, you look at it, and you start flipping the pages, reading the specs, looking for information. What are some of the key components that helps you make a decision of where you're going to start first? Can you do 2 flow lines? Do you need 2 cranes?
Mhm.
What are some of the key components you look at as a superintendent to set up a project?
Okay. So first thing I'm looking at is I want to see where's my deepest foundation. Some of the jobs are, what is your deep foundation system? Is it a caisson job? Is it an auger cast job? Is it just a regular footing job? On some of the bigger projects where it's a caisson job, you have these deep mats that you have to pour for your elevator.
Right.
So obviously you got to start down low and work your way kind of up. So that's one of the first things I look at is where does that happen? Do I have enough room to put sheet pile in? Do I have, I got to de-water. Do I have to pull that sheet piling out, or can I abandon that sheet piling in place?
Right.
I love to do that, but there's a cost associated with that. But there also could be a schedule impact with coming back and having to pull the sheet piling out.
Right.
So you have to weigh all of those things to really see what is the best for the project.
So when you're looking at the project, you've got auger cast piles and you've got driven piles
You've got driven piles. You also have the caissons.
and caissons.
Yep.
So have you ever, looked at it and said, look, talk to the engineer and said, hey, if you do driven piles, can we do driven piles? It will save you 2 months on the schedule compared to caissons or auger casts.
Yes.
I did a project where we had the auger cast piles. And when we hit bedrock, we had to go down another 20 feet.
Right.
And then we were steel sleeved. We had the rebar cages made up and we trimmed down the concrete and poured them and left the tie-in rebar at the top.
Mhm.
But, you know, that condition was in Tampa, right on the water.
Yep.
So there wasn't much you could do. And I asked the engineer, why did we not use driven? And he said, well, number one, you're next to a building.
Right.
You're going to shake the living daylights out of it.
Yep.
And it's people in there. They're a hospital.
Mhm.
So you ever have any luck with the change of that?
We have gone on some jobs before where early on, as we were getting the DD set of drawings, the structural engineer had a system, say he had auger cast.
Yeah.
And we went through and we said, well, if we can switch to caissons, we can save X number of dollars. You know, with auger cast, you got a lot more auger cast in your foundations. Your mats tend to be a good bit larger. We can shrink the mats up. We can get them a little bit thinner as well and go on caissons. So yeah, we've done that where we've gone and made suggestions. They go back, they got to run calcs to make sure that, you know, that it maths out.
Yeah.
And then of course we run the numbers for cost savings.
Right.
Present that to the owners and owners are a lot of times are liking to go to that VE option.
Yeah, especially if it's a good margin.
Yes, absolutely.
So you started in the deep foundation. What do you look at next?
So I'm also looking at where's the heart of the building? When I say heart of the building, where's the electrical room? Where does the service provider come in? Where's the fire pump room, domestic water pump rooms, all of those type of rooms? The fire command center. Those are all the rooms that really need a lot of time in the schedule to get done. Also, we got to look at how the building sits on the site.
Right.
And if we have constraints on either side of our site, how do we work ourselves out of there so we're not working ourselves into a corner?
Right.
You know, worst thing we could do is start working caissons and we work ourselves back into a corner and we got no way to get our equipment out of the corner. So we got to be smart about that kind of stuff. There also may be expansion joints in the building. And,
Yeah.
And I may have one tower that's taller than the other, or in some situations where we had a podium deck that came all the way up, and then we had two towers that sat on top of that. We had to leave the center of the podium out because we were downtown Miami. We had no area to lay down. So
Yeah.
we used the in between the two towers as our lay down area until we got towers built up, and then we brought the podium out. So there's a lot of logistics that look into it or that goes into it. We've got to also think about, you know, placements of tower cranes. I'm a firm believer in trying to keep the crane outside the building every time you can.
Is there any advantage to, I mean, I've put them in elevator shafts before.
Elevator shafts are bad, in my opinion, only because you got to have that elevator, because until you have that elevator, you got buck hoists inside the building.
Right. Which,
You can't dry the buildings in. So-
and your skin
and their
and,
skin and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, getting dried in, getting air conditioning running, all your interior finishes so that we can start the fire alarm testing and get through finals. It's you got to kind of look at all that. You got to weigh it all.
lots of,
you know,
lots of choices.
There's a lot of choices. And if you look at the drawings, the building will tell you where to place a lot of this. You just got to understand how to read it.
Right.
You know, you look at the drawings, you look at the elevations. There may be one elevation where everything lines up, all your balconies line up. Well, that tells you that's where you want your hoist.
Right.
You know, if you got balconies that are in and out, you know, then you got to do scaffolding platforms, and it just makes it challenging. So the building will tell you. You gotta read it and understand it.
Yeah. So you start with your deepest foundations
Deepest
first.
foundations work our way up.
Look
Yeah.
for your, what we call priority rooms.
Mhm.
The fire pump room, the main electric switchgear room. There's always a ton of conduit in underground.
Oh my goodness.
I've had so many conduits in those, I've had to use flowable fill to fill them back because you couldn't get the
Couldn't
dirt
get
back
around
between them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're looking at your critical slab and your placement.
Mhm.
So now you've got that thought out. Where do you say, I want to start the skin? I want to start the interior. What do you use for thought on that?
So what I try to do is, you know, again, if we have electrical rooms on one side of the job, that's where I really want to start, because the electrical rooms and the risers going up the building.
Yeah, because they're usually
So
stacked a lot.
They're normally stacked.
Right.
So that's very, very important. And a lot of times we will start a drywall guy or a mason on electrical rooms, depending on how the walls are made up,
Right.
while we have reshores still there.
Yeah.
You know, we get strategic about how we put the reshores there to allow that area to start, to allow the electrician to start stacking conduit and putting in cans for electrical panels and
For temporary power as well as permanent.
temporary and permanent, exactly.
So the restores are, so you've poured the deck
Mhm.
and usually once you hit a break, most of the time it's a 7-day break that's 75% or more. That's a rule of thumb that a lot of people use. You can pull your form system out,
Mhm.
drop it, and then put in your restores immediately right after. And then what those stay in until you hit your 30-day break, correct?
It varies.
If it's
Yeah.
its strength.
Yeah, it varies on engineers. Some engineers are a little bit different. Our current situation is we have an active deck we're pouring with shoring,
Right,
and then we have 2 floors of reshore.
right.
Ours is post-tension cables or post-tension slab. So we pour one day, we stress the next day. In theory, if, we can start pulling tables that next day
Once your PT has been,
and reshore, once the PT's been stressed.
then on your post tension cables, that's where they put that machine on the
Yes,
end
sir.
and it reads, it has a dial on it.
As
it has-
gauge and pulls
Yeah,
to a
it
certain-
has to pull.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've had to have the testing lab witness all of the pulls.
And every time we have an inspector on site, he logs all that information that then goes to the structural engineer for approval. And once the structural engineer is good with that approval, then we get what we call a cut letter. We come back and cut the tails of the PT
Yep.
tendons off. And then we grease and cap the ends, and then we can patch them.
Yeah.
All of that's all documented with photos as well as inspections by people.
Kind of a QC item too that you don't
Electronic.
see later.
That's correct. That's correct, but it can be a big deal later down the road if it's not done properly.
So now you got that up. What do you look at for your skin on the outside? Because there's full curtain wall systems,
Mhm.
there's storefront systems, there's framed with stucco, ethos, multiple types of products. There's metal skins, composite panels. There's all kinds of things on that exterior.
Yeah, there is.
What do you look at for starting that particular part?
So what I'm kind of looking at is the areas that are most critical, like as we come up our building, we've got a podium. We have a pool deck amenity space on level 11. So I want to go into where that podium is, that amenity space is, and I want to get all that exterior work done so that the stucco and windows are in and caulking is complete. So I can start that podium work on the
Yeah.
outside. Meanwhile, that mason is running around the building, blocking up the building. The waterproofer's running right behind him.
Chasing right behind them.
The window guy's right behind him, and then right behind him is my framer. So
Right.
it's a train.
It's a train.
And when you look at these high-rise buildings, you can see we're pouring concrete up here, mason's here, the waterproofer's here, the window guy's here, the framer's here, and just so on down the road.
Train and work.
It's a train. It's
Got that
absolutely,
train moving.
and on large enough jobs, you can actually go and you can see the whole process. You can walk to the top and see concrete getting poured, rebar going in, and PT going in, and you can walk your way right on down to finished product.
Yeah. We usually, we like to see 6 to 8 floors above before we start doing the skin to help it's a safety issue. And sometimes we'll actually use a catch net on the perimeter to help along. Because regardless of what we're doing, how we're flowing, safety is the number one item on the project.
Right.
And we have to think our way through it. And as you're doing your developing of the schedule and how you're flowing, you're looking at safety items. And what are some of the key things that happen that you click in your mind for safety?
A lot of times it's egress in and out of the building. Kind of like how you put together your overhead protection
Right,
coming in and out of your building. It's funneling people through one safe area,
right,
or multiple safe areas, because you have to have a couple different areas to get people in and out. The other thing I like to look at too is locations of the straps where we have tie-off points.
right.
We got to cast those in the concrete slabs those are relatively cheap. I mean, you're talking less than $5 a piece. Have more than you need. Because if you don't have them, then you're drilling and you're putting in temporary anchors. And then you got to come back and patch holes that you would not have had to do had you spent the extra say,
And
$5.
it's real easy to walk over and nail that down to the form and leave it.
Right. It
And,
really is.
and you can have one, two, you can't have too many, like you
can't
said.
have too many.
And it even helps during the overhead work where the guys have an attachment point to do their work.
Yes, it does.
And, on a safety aspect, we always try to create with ladders laps. And this electric scissor lifts, the engineer gives approval.
Right.
This is the biggest you can have. Let's put it on there. We're only 14 foot deck to deck. So a 16 footer is perfect, or a 19, depending on what's available.
Exactly.
They can run through there. As you're developing the schedule and you have your teams going, do you do, one of the things I did here when we started the project was I sat down with the subcontractors, we reviewed the schedule and got their buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
So that they could see all the components and their responsibility. And that way, when you develop it with the time on the schedule, it's there. And now that you've thought your flow through, now it's time for the subs to buy into their duration. And sometimes we have to tell the subs, this is all we have in time. You have to have a bigger team.
Right.
But we want them to know up front so that the schedule goes out prior to bid.
Correct.
That way they can bid it accordingly and not get a surprise.
Correct.
So your subcontractors meetings are real critical. And that's a key component to starting it. So we've got a few minutes left and I'd like to spend that on, if you were talking to a young superintendent, what kind of tips would you give him for developing the schedule?
First thing, go through the drawings, look at all the details. Okay, get in your mind how you would build it.
Right.
Then start to involve the subcontractors. Ask them questions. How long is it going to take you to frame this area? How long is it going to take the electrician to go in and rough this area in? Is there any way that we can work, two
flow lines? Yeah.
Some jobs lend itself very good to 2 flow lines. Sometimes not so much. You may not have enough square footage for 2 flow lines to work. But I think the biggest thing is you put your initial plan together, and then you get a scheduling workshop put together. You bring the subcontractors in, you all sit down, and you have the drawings up on the board, and you kind of work your way through it and take bullet points, hit your hot topic items,
Right.
and go through. Our subcontractors are the guys that do this every single day.
And they got a lot of good.
A lot of good ideas. They're the professionals in their trade. That's why we hire them and utilize their knowledge to help you build a better schedule.
In asking the questions that you'll find out a lot of them like to share with you information,
Absolutely.
talk to you, and it's a great resource. No one knows all the answers. And as each project is a team, communication between the team, the talking, the discussing, and you're not going to have some friendliest conversations, but they still work.
Right.
And once they find out you're there to help them, they're happier to join in and make that move forward.
And if you get buy-in from everybody, then they all feel like they have a little bit of ownership.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When you sit here and you tell them, it's a little bit different than when you maybe ask and then everybody buys in. You have a team then.
Yeah. So what would be a few good lessons learned you could share with us?
Lessons learned is you can't start too soon. Putting the schedule together.
Right.
Another lesson learned too that I think is really important is have that schedule in your pocket, whether it's on your iPad, whether it is a paper copy that you have folded up in your pocket, but always have it with you and always go out and inspect, walk the building, update that schedule, and challenge the subcontractors. Can we go faster? Hey, I noticed this area is available for you. You don't have anybody there. I know you're not supposed to start until next week. Do you have another crew that you can get out here to get this started? Because if we get you done, then we can turn everybody else behind you.
Right. And sometimes they're reluctant to bring in the extra crew. But one good part about it is okay, if you bring the extra crew in, I'll see that the flow stays where your
Right.
crew stays to the end. And then you gain time on the schedule.
Absolutely. The worst thing we can do is have peak manpower up and down and up
Right.
and down. You know, we want to have kind of a slow
Like a bell curve
That's
almost.
exactly right. And you know, if you present it such to the subcontractor that, look, we've got a plan, we can get out of this job a month early. Start looking at all your GCs that you can save in a month.
Right.
There's incentive to maybe spend a little bit more money right now to get subcontractors in earlier, or a few extra crew members to get done so that we can get out of here a month early.
Yeah, and that's like you said, GCs. It's a lot,
Absolutely.
and sometimes that's shared to the owner, and the owner
That's
gets real happy.
You know, we cannot really influence the cost of a product. The product costs what it costs.
Right.
What we can do is install it more productively,
Right.
more efficiently, and we watch the hours, the money spent on manpower. That's where we can have savings or losses.
Yeah.
If we don't do it well.
Well, that's some great information, Joe. I appreciate you coming. Thanks for coming in, walking the job site with me, taking the time and the conversation. We got a lot of good content. And I want to remember to thank Colony Hardware and Safety Supply for our safety gear for our podcast. And I really appreciate you taking the time, sitting down and looking at the job with us, walking the job. You know, it's always great to have a second pair of eyes on the project, and it's something that all teams learn from. I mean, you saw it a different way than I did. And one of the things that's a challenge is to go, wow, he's got a point. I need to use that point and it'll make it better.
Right.
And I do, and it's great information. So wrapping up this edition of Joe on the Job Site with my guest, Joe Brown. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in the next edition.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.